Every year, thousands of people disappear. Most are eventually found, but some vanish without leaving a single trace. No answers, no clues, no explanation. And decades later, their cases remain some of the biggest mysteries ever recorded. Here are 5 missing people who were never found. Number 5. Michael Rockefeller. Now this next case feels like something straight out of a movie. Imagine being part of one of the richest families in the world. You have money, you have opportunities, you have your entire future ahead of you. And then one day, you simply disappear. This is the story of Michael Rockefeller. Back in 1961, Michael was a 23-year-old explorer and member of the famous Rockefeller family. But unlike most people in his position, he wasn't interested in luxury. He loved adventure. He loved traveling to places most people would never dare visit. That passion eventually brought him to a remote region of New Guinea, one of the most isolated places on Earth at the time. Michael spent months studying local tribes and collecting artwork. Everything seemed to be going well, until one day, during a trip along the coast, disaster struck. Michael and a Dutch anthropologist named René Wassing were traveling in a small boat when rough waves caused it to capsize. Suddenly, they found themselves stranded in open water miles from shore. For hours, they clung to the overturned boat and waited for help. But eventually Michael made a decision nobody would ever forget. Looking toward the shoreline, he reportedly said, "I think I can make it." Then he jumped into the water and started swimming. That was the last confirmed time anyone ever saw him. Search teams were launched almost immediately. Planes searched from above, boats searched the coastline, nearby villages were questioned. But Michael Rockefeller was gone. No body, no belongings, no answers. And that's when the theories began. Some people believe Michael simply drowned before reaching shore. Given the strong currents and dangerous conditions, that's entirely possible. But others aren't convinced. Over the years, rumors emerged suggesting Michael actually reached land. Some stories even claimed he encountered members of a remote tribe shortly after arriving. If that's true, what happened next remains a complete mystery. And that's the problem with this case. Every theory sounds possible, but none of them have ever been proven. More than 60 years later, nobody knows whether Michael drowned, survived, or experienced something else entirely. One thing is certain though, a young man entered the water in 1961 and was never seen again. And somehow, the next case on this list is even more famous. Number 4. Amelia Earhart. Alright, before we get into this one, let me ask you something. How does a plane disappear? Seriously, not just crash, not just go missing for a few days, completely disappear. No confirmed wreckage, no confirmed location, no final answer, especially when the person flying it is one of the most famous people on Earth. Well, that's exactly what happened to Amelia Earhart. Back in the 1930s, Amelia wasn't just a pilot. She was a celebrity, a trailblazer, someone who inspired millions of people around the world. She broke records, made history, and became one of the most recognizable women of her time. Then in 1937, she decided to take on her biggest challenge yet, flying around the world. At first, everything seemed to be going according to plan. Stop after stop, Amelia continued making progress. The finish line was getting closer, but then came one of the most difficult parts of the journey. A flight across a massive stretch of the Pacific Ocean, and that's when things started going wrong. Radio communications became weaker. Navigational problems began to appear, and suddenly nobody seemed to know exactly where her plane was. The last messages received from Amelia suggested she was struggling to locate a tiny island where she was supposed to land. Then, silence. No more messages, no more contact. Nothing. Just like that, Amelia Earhart vanished. What followed was one of the largest search operations the world had ever seen at the time. Ships searched the ocean, aircraft searched from above. Investigators followed every lead they could find. But despite all that effort, nothing conclusive was ever discovered. And that's where the mystery begins. Some people believe Amelia crashed into the ocean shortly after losing contact. Others think she may have landed on a remote island and survived for a period of time. Over the years, researchers have found clues that seemed promising. But every time people thought they had finally solved the mystery, new questions appeared. And that's why, nearly 90 years later, Amelia Earhart's disappearance remains one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in history. A legendary pilot, a plane, an entire ocean, and somehow no definitive answer. So what do you think happened to Amelia Earhart? Because to this day, nobody knows for sure. Number 3. Jimmy Hoffa. Alright, this next case is so famous that even decades later, people are still arguing about what happened. Imagine showing up to a meeting, standing in a parking lot, waiting for someone to arrive, and then you completely vanish. No witnesses, no body, no answers. That's exactly what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. Back in the 1970s, Hoffa was one of the most powerful labor union leaders in America. He had influence, he had connections, and according to many people, he had plenty of enemies too. On July 30th, 1975, Hoffa drove to a restaurant near Detroit for a meeting. He arrived, he waited, and then he disappeared. Just like that. His car was still there, his personal belongings were still there, but Jimmy Hoffa was gone. Over the years, countless theories have emerged. Some people believe he was murdered by organized crime. Others think his body was secretly buried somewhere. Nobody would find him. Every few years, a new lead appears. A new witness comes forward. A new theory makes headlines. And every single time, the mystery remains unsolved. Nearly 50 years later, one question still hasn't been answered. What really happened to Jimmy Hoffa? Because whatever happened that day, he was never seen again. Number 2. Maura Murray. Alright, this next case is genuinely creepy, because unlike some of the other disappearances on this list, we know exactly where Maura Murray was, at least for a few minutes. And then, she was gone. Back in 2004, Maura Murray was a 21-year-old college student. One day, she packed some of her belongings, got into her car, and left campus. She didn't tell many people where she was going, and that's one of the reasons this case became such a mystery. A few hours later, Maura crashed her car on a rural road in New Hampshire. Several witnesses noticed the accident. One neighbor even spoke with her. According to reports, Maura appeared shaken, but she wasn't seriously injured. Then someone called the police. And here's where things get strange. Police arrived just a few minutes later. Not an hour later, not the next day, just a few minutes later. But when officers got there, Maura was gone, completely gone. Her car was still there. Her belongings were still there, but there was no sign of Maura. No confirmed sightings, no phone calls, no messages, nothing. It's as if she vanished during the short window between the crash and the arrival of police. And that's exactly why this case continues to fascinate people. What could happen to someone in only a few minutes? Did she run into the woods? Did someone pick her up? Did she intentionally disappear? Nobody knows. Over the years, investigators, volunteers, and search teams have spent countless hours trying to solve the mystery. But despite all that effort, there's still no definitive answer. More than 20 years later, people are still debating what happened on that dark road, because one moment, Maura Murray was standing next to her crashed car, and a few minutes later, she had vanished without a trace. Number 1. Brandon Swanson. Alright, this last case might be the creepiest one on the entire list, because unlike most missing person cases, we actually know Brandon's final words. And somehow, that only makes the mystery even more disturbing. Back in 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was driving home late at night after hanging out with friends. At some point, his car slid into a ditch. Not a huge accident. He wasn't hurt, so he called his parents and asked them to come pick him up. Pretty normal, right? Except what happened next wasn't normal at all. While waiting for his parents, Brandon stayed on the phone with his dad. The two talked for nearly an hour while Brandon walked through fields, trying to meet them. His dad could hear him walking, could hear him climbing over fences. Everything seemed fine. Then suddenly, Brandon yelled, "Oh shit," and the call went silent, just like that. No scream, no struggle, no explanation, nothing. His father immediately started calling out his name, but there was no response, and Brandon was never heard from again. The next day, search teams flooded the area. Police searched, volunteers searched, dogs searched, helicopters searched. But somehow there was no sign of Brandon, not even a clue, explaining what happened after that phone call. Over the years, people have come up with all kinds of theories. Maybe he fell into a river. Maybe he got injured in the dark. Maybe something else happened entirely. The truth is, nobody knows. More than 15 years later, Brandon's final words remain one of the most chilling mysteries in America. 3 simple words. Oh shit. What did he see? What happened next? And why has nobody ever found the answer? And those were 5 missing people who were never found. Which case do you think is the most mysterious? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real mysteries and unexplained stories. Also check out the video on your screen right now. If this story kept you hooked, that one is even crazier. Thanks for watching.